So this is session 1, and I'm calling it series 2 on why Jesus came. We ended last week seeing how the Israelites entered the promised land, and Joshua challenged them, choose this day whom you will serve. And the people were adamant that they would be obedient to God. And so Joshua made a covenant with them, and he set up a standing stone as a reminder of the covenant that they'd made. So this week we're going to look at, just how well did they do? Now the 12 tribes of Israel were each given an area for them to settle in, and they were told to drive out the inhabitants of that area, and God gave them some amazing victories. The tribe of Dan was given the northwest area, and the inhabitants there were the Philistines. Now, Dan failed to drive the Philistines out, and we don't know why they failed, whether they just didn't try hard enough, they were too lazy, or whether they tried to do it in their own strength and not use God. The fact is that the Philistines remained living on the coastal plain, and the people of Dan settled in the rather dry hills to the east of there. And the fact that they'd failed to drive the Philistines out was something that brought trouble for many, many years for Israel. Now the Philistines were a sophisticated culture. They knew how to work iron, which the Israelites did not. They produced a very fine quality olive oil, and they were wealthy, and they lived on a fertile coastal plain. For 40 years, Dan was actually under the Philistine influence and domination. And the Israelites got drawn in to the Philistine way of worship and their religion as also their way of life. Now God raised up somebody to bring them back, the Israelites, bring them back to the obedient lifestyle. His name was Samson. Most of us know the story of Samson, and that he had hair that had never been cut, and that was the source of his great strength. At least that's probably how we were told the story. But Samson was the son of a couple who were childless, and an angel visited them one day and told them they would have a child, and he was to be a Nazirite. Now a Nazirite was someone who never cut their hair, who didn't touch a dead body, and who never drank wine. There wasn't anything sacred about being a Nazirite, but it sure made them stand out as different in that culture. And the whole idea was that Samson was to stand out as different. He was different for God, and God would use him then to combat the Philistine way of life. God gave Samson amazing strength, and he didn't lose that strength because he cut his hair. He lost his strength because he broke all 3 of the Nazirite vows. And he broke them because he got caught up in the Philistine culture. The first thing he did was to marry a Philistine woman. And then he got involved in the wedding festivities, which were about a week of drinking. Later he attacked a lion and killed it. The last vow that he broke, of course, was the cutting of his hair, and so God took away his strength. Samson had been given a task to do. His task was to confront the Philistine culture, but instead he got drawn into it and he joined it. The question for us then is, are we standing against the things in our culture which are wrong, or are we sucked in by them and not willing to be different?
You have called us out of darkest night into your glorious light, that we may sing the wonders of the risen Christ. May our every breath recount the grace that broke into our stride, with boundless love and deepest joy, with endless life. May the peoples praise you, let the nations be glad. All your blessing comes that we may praise, may praise the name of Jesus. For the earth is yours is your own, and from your hand we give to you to make Christ known. May the seeds of mercy grow in us for those who have not heard. May songs of praise fill lives of grace to spread God's word. May the peoples praise you, let the nations be glad. For your blessing comes that we may praise. May praise the name of Jesus. It's our holy privilege to declare your praises and your name to every nation, tribe, and tongue. Your church proclaim. May the